Yeah, they live.
Hello, everybody. Can't touch it.
Y'all ready?
Yes.
Tell me when you want me to fade.
Start. Okay.
Fade.
Hello, everybody. This is Divine,
And this is Ira.
and together we are known
As one, we want to just say good late evening.
Yes.
We know y'all probably finished eating dinner, getting the kids in the bed, and all that good stuff. But we have some special guests in the studio with us tonight, and we're so excited. We have Mr. and Mrs. King in the studio with us, and we are so excited. Yeah. It's always good when you can get some married couples together to even help us newlyweds out.
Share that experience and hope with us. So
right. So we don't claim to know everything, and I'm sure they probably say, well, we don't know everything either, but they can still help us out because we're still newly married. But we're going to get into some things tonight again. I want to introduce the King. So this is Mr. King and this is Mrs. King.
Good evening. Hello, everyone.
Okay, so my husband, we actually met at an event it's been about a month almost now. And we just had the pleasure of meeting Mr. and Mrs. King, and it was just such a blessing, and the connection was so strong, and I just thank God, for putting us in the right places so that, he can bring those connections in order for us, to go forth in ministry and do the thing that God has called us to do. Mm-hmm. And like I said, as one, this show is not, it's not about it's not about us, but it's about us coming together to do kingdom work. And we understand everybody is on different levels, you know, in their relationship. Everybody is not on the same level. So with them being in the studio tonight, I'm excited. Mm-hmm. I had an issue, but I'll tell y'all about that later. I had to almost fight for my life tonight, but I'll tell y'all about that later.
Oh, yeah, I definitely want to hear about that. Okay. Look, we've been trying to get them up here for the last couple of weeks. And it's snowing and everything. So I'm glad that the snow went away so that, they could come in and make way and let us know, some of the stuff, different aspects about their lives. So the first question I would like to ask them, y'all could kind of introduce yourself. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Okay, ladies first.
Mrs. King.
Yeah. My name is Wanda King, and I am married to Stephen King. A little bit about myself. Well, I work as a tutor, an academic tutor for the Archdiocese.
Wow. Oh,
that's a good thing.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I was previously a teacher. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that I went from one end of the spectrum to the other. Prior to that, a geriatric social worker. So there's a diversity there.
All the hard work.
All the
hard work.
See?
Yeah. Well, I'm Stephen King. I'm retired. I retired from the Philadelphia Police Department January 20th, a year ago.
Okay.
So I've been out of it for a year and 2 months now. And
thank God.
I'm just loving this type of life.
That's good. I can say that.
You're just loving it. Well, how did y'all two meet?
Wow.
Well, that goes way back.
He said, wait.
A long time ago.
Uh-huh.
You can leave out the dates if you want to.
Oh, yeah. 1975.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's a better historian than I am.
You see my face?
She wasn't even born yet.
No.
I was a toddler.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my goodness.
I think I'll leave the ages out.
But y'all still look good.
But you know something? It's a blessing.
It is.
Because
it
what
is.
it shows longevity, it shows long life.
Mm-hmm.
Something that a lot of our youth today don't believe because of what they see and the bearing of their friends. And that's rough. That happens a lot nowadays. When we met, I was 19 I think you were still 18.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you were, in fact, I went to her high school graduation.
And I didn't know it.
What?
I did not know. We had met in ministry, being a part of, grew up actually as a part of Evelyn Graves Drama Productions. Back then it was Evelyn Graves Drama Club. And we traveled the East Coast doing plays, really winning souls for Christ. That's what we were doing. It was Christ through drama. That's what it was. And I was actually in a play. We had gone to his church. His cousin was a part. And then he joined. But we didn't connect then.
Okay.
We were friends then, being a part of the same ministry, but we didn't come together back then. And I really had no idea, again, that he had attended my graduation until decades later.
Wow.
How did that come out?
My mother, who kept everything. I mean, when I had to clean out her house when she moved, boy, it was a job. But she found the program with her name underlined.
His mother had gone to her treasure chest of things. One day we were at her house. This is decades and decades later. And she found the program, as he said, of my graduation, where he had underlined my name because, mind you, we were in the drama club together and he had attended. I had, again, no idea that he had been there. And there I see it. It was chilling to see that he was even there at that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
amazing. That's amazing for it to come out that many years later. You know, she said decades.
Yeah, it was.
So after that, when y'all initially met each other and y'all found out that y'all were liking each other, what actually attracted you to him and what attracted you to her?
Well, I have to tell you this story because we'd been friends, and again, we had not connected, hadn't seen him in years. We had a reunion of that drama club that I mentioned. Although years and years later, we had a reunion, and he was there. I was responsible for finding everyone. I was the detective that had to seek out and find everybody, having been a member for so long. And one day we were doing a play. It was Mother's Day. There was a play, and I was vending ladies' accessories, and he came to the table and he said, have you gotten anything for yourself? And I said, no, I haven't. He said, I'll be back in about an hour, pick up something for yourself. So I did, and it was bottle perfume. He paid me for it and gave it to me and said, Happy Mother's Day.
Oh, that was sweet.
Smooth move, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. All right, Mr. Can I see you? Smoothie.
He said smoothie.
It'll be his new nickname.
Smoothie.
That will be his new nickname, Smoothie. And so the following day, I called him to say thank you. And mind you, I knew that he was a police officer, and I'd also heard that he worked nights. So when I called him, I said, I leave a message. I guess he's asleep. He calls me back. And we started talking about the old days and old times, the group of us that had hung together, reminiscing, talking about birthdays and all that. And this was, again, in May. It was Mother's Day. And we talked about birthdays. His birthday is in March. Mine is in April. We had missed one another's birthday. He said, why don't we just go out and celebrate? I'm now single. And so I said, okay. We planned to go out to dinner. But while we were on the telephone, I said, oh, hold on a second. I just moved. And I told him I smell smoke. And I came back to the phone and I said, and this is key to the story, I said, you know what? I smell smoke. I thought it was toast, but I just moved. I don't even have a toaster. So what do I smell? I thought it was burning toast. And he picked me up a few days later, And I got in the car. He reaches to the back seat of the car and hands me a box that says "Happy Birthday." Mind you, my birthday is in April. This is in May. And I ripped the paper off, and it was a toaster. I cried all night long. I just cried.
Don't you start there.
Like, this is their connection.
And there was another smooth move.
Smoothie. There's smoothie.
All right.
No, Mr. King.
But it's a good thing, because what I always admired about her, she was just beautiful. No matter what it was, no matter what she did, she was beautiful and classy. You know, she never. You talk about. I always assumed she was a quiet person. I found out later that I was wrong.
She said she's not an introvert, huh?
But every time I've seen her been around, she's always been quiet and reserved, and she was just an all-around beautiful person, and that's what attracted me to her. It's a natural beauty. People look at you and say, oh, you look this or you look that. But I've always admired the inner beauty of a person.
That's what's important.
You know, and she had that inner beauty that radiated to the outside. And that's what really got my attention. And,
Wow.
And you know, I'm sitting here and I was saying smoothly, and I'm jokingly saying it. But how many people do you know that would be that persistent? Or pay that much attention? You know, he got the toaster. You know, she just mentioned, and he went out his way, and he got the perfume, and paid for it, and gave it to her, and said, how many men do you know that would do that nowadays?
And he still does things like that. I'll just mention. And, just mention. That's it.
He's in tune.
And he listens. And that
Aware.
is so key in marriage. You have to listen.
Exactly.
That's it. And an example is just recently, I just mentioned an air fryer. And I was saying, you know what? I heard about these air fryers, and I haven't really tried them out or anything. And have you heard about the air fryer? And I'm telling him, and he said, no, I haven't. I said, you know what? So and so was telling me about. I don't know if it's going to, work. And just in conversation, and it had to be just not even a week later. I came in, it might have been from work. And he'd gone to the store.
I went to Sam's. I went up to Sam's,
fryer.
and I just saw one there.
Air fryer.
And I said, okay. Might as well pick it up. She mentioned it and brought it home. And again, I don't come out and say, look what I did. I'm not one who flashes.
Right.
You just go out and do. There's no, if you got to flash it and tell, it's not in your heart.
Right. That's true.
You're doing it for show.
That is so true.
You're doing it more for show.
Right.
That's it.
And
it's a joy to do for, one another.
It's like that
like
reciprocity.
Yeah.
You do
give
for
back.
each other.
You give back.
And I just want to say this. You know what's so beautiful about it? So when people think of intimacy, they just think, okay, let's just go do whatever, physical. Get, like my grandmother said, we're going to get to know each other. But this is what it feels like to me when I hear your story. Y'all develop that intimacy, mentally, just having that conversation and just, being in tune with each other. And like you said, that listening and being aware, he may say, you know what? Oh, my shirt, don't fit like it used to. I really like that shirt, And it's not to say, well, if I say it loud enough, she'll run out and get it. But he's just saying that's a need that needs to be met. And that's what's so beautiful about marriage, because we are meeting each other's needs. And like I said, I just love the intimacy. I can feel the intimacy, And a lot of people, you just think that it's levels to intimacy. It's not just, sexual. It is part of it, but at the same time, when you're building those levels and those layers of intimacy, is just so beautiful, and that's what I'm hearing, in between all of that.
And it's good to be friends. We're friends. That's what's good about it.
And sometimes, you'll know what she wants maybe before she even mentions it. Because you're so in tune with each other.
Right.
I did hear you mention that y'all been together since the 70s, but how long have y'all actually been married to each other?
We met in the 70s.
Okay, met in the 70s.
We met in the 70s.
I know. I said, but how long? How long have y'all actually been married?
Since 2001.
Okay. That's a long time.
All those years
And they say
later.
within the society that we are in now, 5 years, most marriages end within 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most. They said 50-something%.
Wow.
Some don't even last 3.
Mm.
You know, so you talking about 2001, we talking about 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, that's being able to endure through whatever comes your way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's definitely a blessing.
And this is where the love comes in, because it's not a one night stand.
Exactly.
Right. Yes.
Even if the duration.
Love that.
Yeah, and you through it all. Andre Crouch wrote a song, Through It All.
Mm-hmm.
And you through it all, you learn to trust,
Mm-hmm.
and you learn the person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still learning, and I have my issues, and I don't pretend I'm this great husband. I have some issues, and she reminds me of those issues. There are times when I'll go out and do things and say, well, why didn't you say something? That's me. I see something, I just go do it. And sometimes I even check myself. And there are times I've called it, oh, wait, okay, called, I'm at Acme, I'm at Sam's, you know.
And by do something, that's what he means. He'll go out and just go to the store out here, and he'll come back with what he wanted. And I'll go, why didn't you tell me you were going there? I wanted, ABC or like that.
I do that.
That sounds a little familiar to me.
But I try to make up, because when she does say, like the fryer, I like those fryers, and the fryer popped up.
And you know what's funny? We was in the store, and we saw them same fryers, and we ended up getting a different fryer. Remember, that's what I just was saying to my wife. So, let me ask you this question, because everybody has their own definition of what marriage is to them. What is your definition of marriage? How would you define your marriage? If you was to tell me about your marriage, how would you define it?
I believe marriage is a collaboration. We were just talking about collaborating.
So true.
Marriage is not, you hear so many times people saying, oh, it's 50-50. No, it is not. No, it is not.
100.
It's 100 and 100. Marriage is giving. Marriage is sacrificing. Marriage is not wanting that back, not you expect it, because the other party and you trust
A lot of people don't
that
get
they're
that point.
going to return.
Right.
Marriage is trust also. You've got to trust. And you know what marriage is? Marriage is being friends.
Yeah.
When we first got together, we started dating. He said, after not too long, he said, why don't we live and laugh for a long time? He said, that's what I want to do, is live and just laugh.
And together, laugh together.
Yes, laugh.
Yeah, that's
And when
beautiful.
we laugh about some of the craziest things.
We have our own language.
We have our own language.
Okay.
And the thing is, it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People, and I've known people who stop having fun because someone told them when they get married, there's no more fun.
He's so silly.
You gotta keep it fun. You gotta keep it fun.
Yeah.
Definitely gotta keep the fun going. But okay, so I have another question. What would you consider your love language? We have a couple of different things that are pertain to love language, like words of affirmation, physical touch,
receiving gifts, quality time, and acts of service.
And acts of service. What would you, just based on those, what would you consider your love language? It could be either one of y'all first. And some people, it doesn't have to just be one thing.
It's a combination.
It's a combination.
Like mine is a combination.
Me and my wife actually took a test. We went to an event like maybe about a month and a half ago, 2 months, and we had took one a year ago, and then we took it again. And it's funny, when we took it the second time, it changed up a little.
It changed.
It changed up a little.
Yeah. Well, we changed.
So it could
people change.
We evolve. Relationships evolve. So it changed from the last time we took it a year prior.
And mine is definitely a combination. I'm familiar with the book as well, the 5 love languages. And I would say that I'm the acts of service, definitely quality time.
Okay.
Always quality time. And you can't mind receiving gifts at all.
Yeah. Gifts are always helpful.
That speaks loudly as well.
Yeah, it does. It does.
I've always
The air fryer.
I said your actions
Yes.
speak louder than
Your
your
words.
You
words.
know, love does.
Love
does.
Love is actually an action word.
It is action. It is a
Love is an
verb.
action word.
It
People
is
tend not
a
to know that.
verb. Right.
It is a verb.
Love actually does. And physical touch, I'm a hugger.
Okay.
I'm definitely a hugger. I'm always a hugger.
Mhm.
You know, I meet you and I'm going,
Yeah,
you know,
I'm
like that.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. King.
I'd say acts of service, words of affirmation. Receiving gifts, you know, I get them and I appreciate them, but I love giving more.
And mine was low too.
You know,
mine was low on that as well.
It's because
The gifts.
when I used to hear them say in the church, it's better to give than receive. I always thought that was backwards. You know, I'm like, wait a minute. I mean, how is that? But when I learned how to give, that's when I began to understand why it was better to see her smile, to see her, hear her scream, like the friar once said, "Wow, you got me! You didn't have to do that." And wait a minute, how much did that cost? and I would just say,
it cost it.
It was there. You wanted it. I got it. You know. And I just love the giving. You know, I want her to be happy, no matter what. I want her to be happy. I want her to be able to walk in her home and have the things that everybody else is talking about. If she wanted it, she can have it, you know. And they say a happy wife makes a happy life.
That's what they say.
So my goal is to keep her happy.
Happy life. Look, and
vice versa.
And I want to tap into something that Mr. King said. Because in giving, he's actually getting back.
Yes, he is.
The happiness, the joy that he sees on his wife's face when he walks into the house, and it's something that she might have just mentioned, as they said, and now smiles. Honey, I love you. You know, those things, that's affirmation, and that's needed within relationships. A lot of people tend not to think that. A lot of people tend not to think that love is an action word. I mean, love is just a word. It's actually an action word, so when you say it, it's stuff that should be followed, you know, with you saying it.
And the good thing too is that it doesn't always have to be material.
That's true.
It isn't always something tangible.
Yeah, you have to see with the
It
eye.
is, yes. If it's just that kind word, he sees me down, that I needed at that moment, you know. Or if I'm sitting in a chair and he walks up and he might just start rubbing my shoulders or some, you know, just the simplest thing. Just something tiny. It doesn't always have to be that shiny object,
Right?
you know,
Having
that you saw in the store window.
That's it. Yeah.
Being intuitive.
Yeah.
And look, he's intuitive as well.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Sometimes I'll say something and she'll just refer. You think you know me, don't you?
That sounds familiar.
Oh, that just sounds familiar.
I think I heard that one before.
You think you don't know me?
Yeah, my wife be like, you don't know me.
Yeah,
Or
but
get
you
out my
know,
head. Or sometimes she'll be like, get out my head.
yeah,
Yeah.
I do. I say that to him all the time.
I've heard that
He
too.
said, and he says that to me. Yeah, just get out of my
I'm
head.
sitting up here. I said, I think I just met my twin because we have the same, you know,
Mannerisms
yeah,
when it comes to
yeah.
certain
When it
things.
comes to certain things, I love because I'm a massage therapist, so I'm always trying to get my husband on the table. He's like, oh, they hurt, you know, because he's. You know, referring back to what happened in the past. I was like, well, honey, I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to make sure you relax and everything. So I definitely have the touch. I love to give gifts. I love to cook for him. We're going to leave here, and I'm still going to go home and cook for him.
Yes, she does.
You know, I will cook for him.
That's wonderful.
I mean, every day. He's not going to go without a meal. So
I know
it's
that's
like,
right.
I don't care where I'm at. my mind is I'm gonna text him, say, honey, I love you. How's your day going? And he may not know what he want to eat, but I say, okay, well, I'll just cook something special. I'll just make sure that he have what he needs, because I was like, I don't want to be the Proverbs 14 wife. They say it's better for a man to live on the rooftop of a house than to live in a house with a nag. Just always I don't want to be that type of wife, to him, because when I was living in Texas, just to give a real quick story, I was living in Texas prior to me moving here. So we had a long distance relationship, so I had to cut everything. Men folks, as my grandmother would say, they gotta go. Everybody had to go, and it was, we developed this beautiful relationship long distance. And he was like, well, we can endure and withstand. He always had these words of affirmation. I was just like, he is getting on my nerves, but he knew what I needed, because I was still in a broken place, because this is a man that accepted me from just all types of abuse. But the beauty of it is that he accepted me for who I was, but then he was willing to come alongside to give me those words of affirmation and say, Ira, you know that you can, what your word says, come on, let's begin to heal and become, come to some acceptance with some things that has happened in your life.
And don't blame yourself.
And he said, and that was one thing. He said, stop blaming. And I was blaming myself, and I didn't feel like I was worthy of him.
Yeah.
I didn't.
And she was.
See, well, sometimes words of affirmation are like a scalpel in a surgeon's hand. Yeah, it's going to cut. It's going to hurt. It's going to bleed. But see, that type of incision or that cut is going to heal properly.
Right.
Which is so good for you.
And it would allow you to heal properly.
Good analogy. And it's also like glue. Because after you go through the process of breaking yourself down, you start to build yourself up when you start to look at reality for what it is and see the part that you played in the situation and come to the realization that it didn't have nothing to do with what you did. It was the sickness of the individual. And this goes out for all women. If you're getting beat or molested or whatever is taking place, if you're able to look at the part that you play and you're able to separate that and see that you didn't do anything wrong, you could start to put everything in perspective and move past that.
That's right.
So that was a good analogy, Mr.
I know, I love that.
But this is another question. Do y'all still have date night?
Yes.
Yeah.
You do? Well, what's your typical date night? It doesn't, because to me, and I'm just being honest, like when I talk to my wife, it doesn't have to necessarily be like something really special. Us sitting, touching, talking. When you start to get to know somebody, let me back up a little. When you start to get to know somebody, your level of intimacy could go up with even less things that you're doing, because you start to become in tune, and then you start to intertwine emotionally, physically, and all that, mentally. So now you start to be on the same brain wave, let me just say it that way. So now I could touch you, and my energy, you can feel my energy just from a simple touch. Or us talking, I'm genuinely saying, babe, I love you. I'm glad you're there for me. Thank you for going, because I've been through some trying times in the last 2 years. I'm not even going to go into that. But But just for you to just, babe, like she said, I was there for her. Babe, I'm glad you're here for me. You're my rock. When I needed a rock, so that I wouldn't keep sinking, or I wouldn't, go out in the sea. You actually held me level. So some people always, and I'm saying this because I talk to a lot of people, and a lot of people think that you have to go out your way and do all extravagant stuff. But sometimes the simplest things is the things that matter the most. So that's why I was saying date night. It doesn't necessarily have to be something super extravagant or a thing. It doesn't have to be a thing per se. It could be the intimate moment that y'all share together. You could be sitting in front of the TV drinking coffee, hot chocolate or whatever, but you're there. You know what I mean? But you're there. You're sharing each other's space.
We had to plan our date nights too, because as he said, he just retired last year, and he worked overnight. So and he slept during the day, and then when he woke up, I went to work. So we had to plan our date nights. We had to make sure we had that time. And when you are busy couples, when you are working like that, when you are in ministry, you have to take the time. You have to plan. And one of the things that we like to do was go to the movies. We go to the movies. You know, he's a big movie buff. And we have movies. We have quite a collection. So if we didn't go out, because there are some times when you run so much, you don't feel like going anywhere. You want to stay home. So what do you do to stay home and still have date night?
Right.
You pop some popcorn.
He's a Scrabble.
We play Scrabble. We're very competitive with our Scrabble. And I tell couples, we can light a fire in the fireplace. You can have an indoor picnic. You can have an indoor picnic. You can put the blanket on the floor. You can fry your own chicken, air fry.
And one time when we first moved into the house, and we had the fireplace, and I was really tired. And I come downstairs to get something, and there she's sitting on the couch with logs on her lap. And I see that, and it's like, you have to light the fireplace. And that right there, to see her face with that fire glowing and how happy she was. See, it's the little things. How much did that cost me? Not a dime.
But it was priceless.
And then he was tired, but he was able to sit back and relax. And just relax in front of the fire. And like you said, you can have hot chocolate, you know, and just sit and listen to a crackling fire and just talk. You know, how was your day? How are you feeling? Talk about anything or not talk at all. Just sit there, you know? So there are so many things that you can do and be creative with your date night, but it's more about making the time and spending that time with one another.
Spending that time with each other.
Right.
That's so true.
That's awesome.
So I have another question. You know, we have questions that I would like to ask. You know, these questions are giving you a better understanding of, you know, some of the things that take place in relationships as well as a marriage and how you can endure, you know, whatever comes your way. And this is the question I would like to ask now. What do you do to resolve obstacles or conflicts that may present themselves in your marriage?
Talk.
Look, and the next question is about communication, but that's the next question after that. So talking, you think that's the best avenue to diffuse any problems or situations that may arise in your relationship?
You have to express it. You have to get it out. You must express it. You have to talk. Because if you don't, what will happen is it will just simmer, and then it'll spark, and then at some point it might explode. So the best thing is to talk it out and say, because see, when it's new, you can say, listen, you know what you said, it hurt me, I was offended. You wait until later, and it becomes, let me tell you something. And then
it's not what you said, it's how you said it.
That's right. It doesn't. It changes.
It changes.
And then at some point, you know, the decibels it's up here, and you might be at the point of screaming and shouting at one another, and when it gets there, nobody's listening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as a man, you have to understand that you are the power pack.
Foundation.
Okay? You have the power to basically destroy. You have the power to do a lot of things. But you have to be tempered with grace in order to know how to use that power for good. For the good. And there are times when I'm bullheaded. I can't be bullheaded because I see things one way. But also I had to learn to listen. That's something I never really had to do in life.
And I'm vocal. I'll come out and say it. Listen, you know, the way you're thinking or the way this is, let's look at it this way. Let's put it on the table and let's look at it. And I hear you and your perspective. However, this is how I feel. let's look at it, and then you can come together and resolve.
She is good for taking herself out of the situation. Everybody can't do that.
That's true.
And I'm one who couldn't. I'm in the middle of it, and but she always said, take yourself out of it
and look at it.
And try to go more towards a solution.
Yeah, let's step out of it.
Yeah. And see, and that's how it is with dividing out. Like me, I take myself out of it. I'll say, listen, babe, this is how I feel, and this is what's going on. This one right here, he'll shut down. I'll be like, hello, I'm talking, babe, I'm talking to you.
Like
and then something, it's not about arguing. It's not that I'm trying to argue with him.
It's about addressing it.
It's about addressing it.
And there is a difference between addressing an issue and arguing about it.
So true.
Yeah, and so that's what I try to get him to see, because that's where we are, that's where we are right now, as far as, how we handle things is, when things do come up. Like, I'm easily to forgive. I was like, listen, I'm not going to let the sun go down on my wrath, brother. So I'm good. And you can tell if he's not well with something, Divine, he'll sit there and his head, if the head go to the right, that means he's not talking to me the rest of the night. And I'll be like, bruh, hi, babe, don't act like that. I was like, hey, man, I'm good. I said, you're not good. Your mannerisms done changed. I said, your head done went over this way. You watch the TV intensely.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm mad. It just means that I just don't feel like I should go any further with that particular situation because it might turn, not necessarily good. We don't really argue a lot like that at all. But, if I see that it could be diffused by me not saying anything, I'm going to not say anything.
Everybody has their differences.
Yeah.
However,
but I do speak my mind. I'm sorry.
It has to come out.
It has to come out.
Definitely.
It really does. It's interesting. Our son is a marriage and family therapist, and we have some conversations with him. With the techniques that they use and all that to bring couples together when they do have differences. And I've just had conversations with him, just listening to him when he's been expressing himself about some of just the different techniques. And you find that it's some of the things that we do naturally anyway. And just talking it out and taking ourselves out of that situation, taking our emotions out of it and say, look at it this way.
And that's what I do.
See it, for what it is.
And that's part of the sometimes it's hard for men to take that type of advice from the woman. But guess what? It has to be done. It has to, because you don't know everything.
That's true.
Even
though you think you do.
I do.
You think you do.
He do. And I and that's what we talking about that. Man, why you always think you know everything? Well, I read this book. And I'm like, oh God.
And just remember, what you think is just an opinion.
That's true.
Yeah.
And an
especially
opinion.
If there's no facts presented behind it.
If there are no facts behind it.
And it came from your finite mind, and you have to understand that
finite. Come on here.
God knows your heart, and if that heart isn't being controlled and has been renewed, then you can say things that can destroy.
Yes, you can.
And you don't want to do that.
It's easy to do.
It's quicker
very
to destroy
easy and hard to get back out of it.
Yeah.
And then the shutdown.
You better
get out of it.
The shutdown is this. You're trying to get through. There's somebody that is trying to get through that shutdown, and it's just like this. And they're trying to get through that. It's a hard thing.
It is.
And it's disappointing to be on the other side of the shutdown.
Yeah.
Sometimes the hardest thing for a man to say is, I'm sorry.
And to open up.
And to open up.
Look, we're not even taught, as men, we're not even taught to express our feelings and emotions. Not like women are.
Right.
We're not brought up that way because,
That's right.
like I was talking about this yesterday, a lot of people see that as being soft.
Yeah.
So we're not even, that's not the manly thing to do. Never let them see you sweat. They'll use it against you if you show too many of your emotions. So, I think that's kind of, and this goes generations back. is not just this generation. It's maybe 50, 100 generations back. However many generations has been, is that way.
That's true.
The man is supposed to be the man, and the woman is supposed to stay in the woman's place. That was what was taught throughout history.
That's what I'm learning.
Different cultures, different races, different time periods. And it's still taught to this day. And if you get out online, this is what's gonna, and it shouldn't be that way. If we talk about equality, it shouldn't be that way, especially in a relationship. So I could skip the communication question. Okay, so this is I like this question because this is one of those questions that could also be perceived from different angles. What are some of the things that you think are essential to keep a marriage loving and caring? Anybody, you can have a lot of different things that you can say, and they all can be true in regards to this question.
And I believe, and I will say from my perspective, it's different with every couple. Because, now the question was, repeat that question?
Yeah, what are some of the things you think are essential to keep a marriage loving and caring?
Every marriage is different.
Exactly.
So we have to start there because it's an individual thing. So to keep the essentials for my marriage may be different than the essentials for your marriage.
Right.
Sure.
But some things that are staples for marriage, there are some things that are staples. Now, you said you see the 5 love languages, but everybody has a language.
Oh, definitely.
Right.
It's just that it may be a different language. So we all have to learn to speak the language
to your partner.
of our of
and
our
the way
spouse.
they receive it.
That's right, and that is the key. And I believe that that is essential to learn what their language is. Because if I'm speaking French to you and you don't speak French, we're not communicating.
No, we're not.
You don't understand.
Like, that's gibberish to me, girl. I don't know what you're talking about.
Not a word.
Just talking.
That's it. You're making noise.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't know if you're
I don't know
talking.
what symbol that is.
It's just noise to me. That's all. And I think that is the essential. I think time is essential.
Time is
definitely essential. If we don't spend some time together, if all of his time is spent playing the football game. I'm just giving an example. If all of it, but he really doesn't. He really doesn't. If all of his time is spent, doing something that dismisses me, then it's not going to work.
Right.
We have to find the time, make the time, invest the time in our spouse.
And it comes back to, like with me, I love cooking for her. Her breakfast, her dinner, and another thing too. At one time, I wasn't able to do a lot of those things because of the work schedule. But the cooking her breakfast, even bringing it to bed, having breakfast in bed. That's something, little things like that I enjoy doing because it's just a part of something, my language, so to speak, my giving, showing how I care. I know a lot of people don't get breakfast in bed, but I'm going to tell you something. It's a good thing to start doing. You don't have to do it every day, but every now and then it's a good thing to.
Yeah, that's true.
And the little surprises, my thing is just the little surprises, catching him unaware. I could be anywhere and go, and I'll just use a something small. If I'm in the store and I know he likes a Hershey bar, I'll pick up the Hershey bar and just sit it on his computer, and so when he comes in the room, he'll say, "Oh, okay," and again, it doesn't have to be big.
Yeah, it does. Right.
Write a little note and stick it in his pocket. And then when he reaches in his pocket, he'll find a little note. Just those little tiny things that'll light up a person's face. You can do things like that.
That's true. Well, I have another question. I'm going to try to get all these questions in. Okay, the main one. Mr. King, I just want to ask you this question. It doesn't have to be long and drawn out. What's the difference between serving and protecting at home as opposed to your job as being an ex-cop? How were you able to separate the feelings and emotions you're dealing with some irrational people, and then you come back and be loving and caring in your household? It doesn't have to be.
Whenever I talked about it, I always told people that God taught me how to be a cop.
Okay. Was that how you found out you was becoming a minister? Did it?
That was before.
Okay.
That was before.
Okay.
When I took the job, I was already saved.
Okay.
And I saw the bad, the horror stories of people taking the job home, taking it out on their families, and I didn't want that. Now, mind you, at the time, I was single, but I had that in the back of my mind. I didn't want to be able to bring this home. And I told her that the same thing. I don't believe that you should fear. I don't want you to fear that I don't want you to worry. She did it anyway, but she didn't
worried
show
about
it.
You going out, being out there.
But she didn't show it.
I didn't show it.
Being an ex-cop, what I've learned to do is still there. It's not going to change because I don't actually get paid to do it anymore. I would still protect and serve in the same capacity.
Okay.
You know.
And I'm sorry. I thought you were done. I'm sorry. Okay. I have to say that he didn't. You know how they say, the cops, they come home and they're, still Mr. Cop and all that. He did not bring it home.
That's a good.
And it's such a blessing that he knows the Lord. So I know it was just God. It's the Holy Spirit that gave him a peace that when he came home, he was home, and he's Steve at home.
Right.
And I always told him, I said, you're a totally different creature at work. You know how Superman went in the phone booth and put on the uniform? Honestly, he stood different in his uniform. His mannerisms were different in the uniform. He was a totally different person at work versus at home. Wow. So that cop person didn't come home. The only thing that was the same was as soft-spoken as he is, that's the way that he was at work.
Oh, okay.
So thank God that, but as far as being protective, he's extremely protective.
Oh, that's
good. Awesome.
And then I tapped into you, being a minister, so I'm going to ask this question. What is the importance of faith to your marriage?
The faith for the man is to know God, that God will bring you out of every situation, that God will supply every need, no matter how bad it looks in the home. You can't show weakness. You cannot show a lack of faith. Okay. When God made you a man, I always looked at that being a privilege. And he made you charge. He gave you charge over these things. And I've told several brothers this. If your home fails, God is not going to ask your wife what happened. He's going to ask you. And you have to give an account. You can't come up and say, like Adam did, my wife
gave me.
What he's supposed to Adam.
That's right.
So I've always told her, if you see me worried, then you know it's time to worry. But have you seen me worry?
No, I haven't.
I don't see that with him either. I was just like, well, all right, Abraham, I'll be Sarah. I will call you my Lord. And Divine is like that too, because I'm just like, okay, I moved here. I want everything to be right. Oh my God. It's not that I don't have faith. I'm just the type of person, God just wired me a little differently. And I want what's best for him as well.
But like I said at the event, you are the weaker vessel.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you are physically weak.
Right.
Okay.
That's right.
You are to be protected.
Right.
That's the difference.
Right.
And a man who can't or don't have that type of faith, which is not impossible for him to get,
right,
he can get that type of faith and protect his home.
That's right.
You know, it's something that you have to want.
And seek.
Yeah, I agree. I
And
definitely
seek
agree.
after.
That's what I love about Old Vine. Yes.
Okay, I have another question. What are your individual passions, the ones that interest you the most? You know, individually, like a passion that you have.
In ministry?
It could be anything.
Anything?
Yeah.
For myself, women's ministry is very important to me.
Okay.
The Lord has blessed that we've birthed a ministry some years ago, and through that we mentor women. It started as Women in Transition, and from that it has grown and evolved, I would say, as well, where at one point it was the girls, and then we're back to mentoring women on a monthly basis. It's our Sisters Breathing Space.
Okay.
And that's a passion of mine, is reaching out and helping hurting women.
That's why I said this is my twin right here. You know, because I do a lot of events on the weekend. I have a lot of, you know, since I moved here, it's been a lot of, you know, reaching out for me to do drama. So I was in a play called If These Walls Could Talk, What Would They Say? And it was dealing with child molestation. And, you know, so I know because I had gone through it, you know, God said, this is going to be your ministry.
Yes.
So I was able, you know, I always get a phone call. Somebody say, Ira, I need your help, you know. This person is being hurt, and I'm quick, and I know, and God is giving me the resources to help these women. And a lot of them don't even live here in Philly. It could be, they could be in Atlanta, they could be in Indiana, you know. And I understand what you're saying because my husband supports that. You know, he if I'm there, he's right there with the cupcakes and the scrubs. Okay, what I need to do?
Right.
Yeah, because you got businesses.
So that's the passion. And he's so supportive, thank God. And everything, even with the retreat, you know, the Breathe retreat and all of that, just that I believe that everything that I do really comes back to my passion being that. That's where it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Yeah. My passion is writing. Yeah, I've developed that over a period of time, I'd say within the last 7 years. And
mine too.
Pastoring and ministering, talking to people about the Lord, and Madden.
Oh, you like Madden?
The football.
Yeah, he likes Madden too.
I haven't played Madden in a couple of years because I broke my PlayStation. But I ain't played it in a couple of years.
I use that as a relaxation outlet. There were times when, you know, if I did have a bad day at work, I would come home, and she knew. I said, I just want to play a game real quick, and that was my way to just like just
decompress,
get a good tackle.
I got it.
I'll go in the kitchen, make me some fried chicken.
I definitely understand that.
And you know how the Lord is so interesting, how God will really equip you for your passion too, and bring those things that you're passionate about. You can reach out through those things, and he'll in different ways just open those doors, and it's like a magnet. It almost like, because it'll chase you. Those things will chase you down because you are passionate, passionate about those different things.
And I'm glad you said that. I wanted to say this because I was sitting in the car and I was driving, and you know, God was like, Ira, he was like, I am so glad that you accepted this pull. And I was like, pull? He was just like, he said, because the things that I put in you, he said, you really feel this pull. And he was like, I'm going to open up some more doors. You just get ready. Because then a friend of mine was like, if somebody got to push you into what you need to do, I don't think that's God, you know. And I was just thinking about it. And I was just like, yeah, and it is. It's like you could feel that pull in your spirit. Like, this is what God wants you to do. If somebody got to push you into it, it's... And
that's not your passion.
And that's something
you don't have to be pushed into your passion.
That's true, and that's something that I wanted to do with my writing and reaching people. A lot of people, and I've learned this from our former pastor, Dr. Evelyn Graves. She said something a long time ago about the play. She said, people will not go to church. but they will go see a play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we reach them.
Oh, okay.
You reach people where they
Oh,
are.
that's good.
And
A lot of people try to go over people's heads.
Yeah,
Yep.
there are so many different avenues and different venues.
Yeah, and you think you got to be in the church walls. This is it. Don't go in the
Right.
highways. Stay right there.
You have to go beyond that.
Right.
And just sitting down and having these couch conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I'm so grateful that the Lord has used us is through in mentoring the women.
Mm-hmm.
Is through the practical application of the
Yes.
Word of God.
That's it.
Making it practical.
Precept on
And
precept.
Where it can be
Yes.
used
Yes.
right
Yes.
here on earth.
Mm.
And that has really been a
That's
blessing.
it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's what that's the direction going into my writing. For that reason, I wanted to be in a way where people who would not read the Bible, but they would read a story and say, wow.
And be curious about that.
Yeah.
And then go look at
And
it.
start asking questions.
Yes.
Uh-huh. You had that old taste and see
That's
that
right.
the Lord is good.
That's
man.
it.
Let me.
Yeah.
I'm going to just ask 2 more questions. I'm going to cut it 1 minute. All right. We have 1 minute left. So
Well,
let me-
here, but you can keep.
Yeah. I'm going to ask one question. Are there any books that you would suggest for people to read other than, we know the Bible. You would say that, but other than that you could think of?
Yes. Command Your Morning.
Oh, awesome
Okay.
book. I read that book.
Command Your
Awesome.
Morning.
How about you,
And
Miss
then
Love that book.
Wow. That one.
It could be anything. It doesn't-
Anything?
Any kind of book?
I read the book called Desperation
Okay.
by Stephen King.
Okay.
And The Shack, too.
Oh yeah, the Shack
The
is
Shack.
good.
Mhm.
But what I liked about Desperation, there was a child in there that the devil wanted badly.
Mhm.
And whenever the devil went to go after this kid would turn and look and speak, and the devil would fall back.
Mhm.
And
that's what
that
we have to
showed
do.
the power of
His name.
the faith of a child.
Mm.
And the other book that she mentioned, The Shack.
Mhm.
The Shack blew the religious, if I had any religious doors or windows,
Yes.
that blew them away.
Mhm.
Because I've always believed in the miracle working power of God. I've always knew God worked miracles because I experienced it.
Mhm.
But to see it put in those words, the way William Paul put those words,
Mhm.
it just blew my mind.
Mhm.
When Jesus walked on water and told Matt to walk with him, he said, "You really expect me to do that?" He said, "Yes, I do." And then when he stepped on it and his socks got wet, he said, he said, "Yeah, it's wet." He said, "I told you we can walk on it, but I didn't say the water wasn't wet." And it's like, wow, the small things that we have a tendency to
overlook.
And I think another book I would mention is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Napoleon Hill,
Yeah,
Yeah.
is a very good book as well.
Okay. So this is the final question. I had to sum it down a little, but what advice would you give to people? And you could go any direction you want to go with this. What would be your advice, like marriage and life overall?
I would say put your dream to the test.
Mm.
And the reason I say that is because people have ideas. We're creative people. We are made by the greatest creator. He is the ultimate creator. And everything starts with an idea. If we look around this room, it was somebody's idea. And so many ideas go in the ground.
That's true.
Because people don't put their dream to the test.
No activation.
There is none. And I'll just mention that I'm a certified speaker, teacher, and coach with the John Maxwell team. And that is one of the courses, is to get people to test your dream and then, as you said, activate that dream to do something with it.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
Say, be true to yourself.
And that definitely sounds good to me. I always say that.
Be true to yourself.
Okay.
Okay, well, we're going to end. I love this scripture. It's Matthew 19:6. It says, "Consequently, they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, God has joined together. Let no man separate.
Okay.
And I just want to thank God, for allowing, God knew that this would happen. He knew that I would come all the way from Texas, meet Divine, and have this connection with my sister Z, and this prayer. I'm going to be honest with y'all. This was something that my husband was praying and just putting out there in the atmosphere, and he said, I want a show where we can talk, where we can bring in couples and we can learn from them and they can learn from us. And I was saying to myself, I said, well, God, he knows how to do those things. And we had no idea how this was going to come into fruition. And he just kept putting it out there. He said, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And Z had no idea what his thoughts was, what our prayers were. And she called me and she said, Ira, God was supposed to ask you 2 weeks ago. I was like, what? Z, what you talking about? She was just like, I really feel that you and your husband need to have a show. And I was like, and he was out, working. And I sent him a message. I didn't want to bother him. I said, I need to tell you this, babe. And he was like, what's going on? And I was like, God answered the prayer. He was like, what are you talking about? I said, we have a show on Spiritual Connect Radio. And he was like, what? And his face just turned cherry red. He was so excited.
This is something, like I said, I used to do podcasts by myself.
Yeah.
I used to do like an hour. I would just talk.
That was your preparation.
Yeah, it was my preparation for this.
It was.
And I don't want it to always just be what I have to say or what my wife has to say. I want to hear from other people because that broadens your understanding of things.
Yes, it does.
Your view of things start to go beyond what you just think. You start to make the connections. Like when somebody says that somebody's smart, what is actually being smart? Smart is being able to figure, or intelligent. Let me change the word. The smart is different. Intelligence is being able to make the connections between things. It's not necessarily being able to spit back or regurgitate what you've read. It's being able to make the connections between what Mr. King said, Mrs. King said, what my wife said, what I said, what Z says. And then you start making connections and you read stuff in the connections, and then you start broadening your mind. It starts expanding just beyond what you think and see in your regular life. You know what I mean? And then you can give back what you've learned, the wisdom that you've obtained. You're able to give that back to others. And that's why I'm so glad that Mr. and Mrs. King finally came up here. I'm glad the weather subsided and we had no storms and all that. Because I really wanted people to hear what they had to say, because when I heard Mr. King speak, when his wife opened up for him at the event we were at, it was beautiful.
It was.
And then when he got up there and spoke, I heard something. Sometimes you never know who's going to reach you or touch you with what they say. And then some things people think it has to be so profound. Like Mr. King said, you have to reach people where they're at. A lot of people think that you have to speak so highly or you have to speak so educated, when in reality, most people won't even get that. They'll get the simple groundwork, the simple layman's terms. I have 2 college degrees. I'm not saying that to say nothing. Sometimes if you didn't know that, you wouldn't know. Because I'm not trying to prove that I'm smart. I'm not trying to prove that I'm intelligent. I'm trying to say it as simple as possible that somebody can actually get something from what I'm trying to say.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I really want to thank them for coming out, and I got a lot out of what they had to say. Do you have any final words?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Really, I really appreciate being here. It's glad to meet you guys.
Yeah, we'll probably have you back. Something else. We'll have you just talking about another topic, if y'all would like to come back a different time.
Certainly.
Okay, and I want to sister, just share about the June. June event. Yes, so women to know, because I know I'm getting there.
June 22nd through 24th. It's our 8th Breathe Retreat. Our first was in 2008.
Okay.
And it's a weekend of wonder and whimsy and worship. And it's a time to relax and reflect and rejuvenate, get some rest. But we have speakers as well. And the good thing about this retreat is that we don't workshop you till your hair falls out, that you're so tired when you get home that you can't, you need more rest. So you have the time where you're poured into, but you also have time to rest as well. Our keynote speaker for this weekend, June 22nd through 24th at Sandy Cove in Northeast Maryland, is Stacy Lattisaw, who is a former Motown recording artist, and she's now Minister Stacy Lattisaw. And so people, anyone can contact us for reservations for the weekend. We have day rate as well as single session rates.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, because I really wanted you to, put that out there. So, because we have a lot of listeners, a lot of people, they're probably asleep right now, but they always play back in the morning. And they say, oh, it was so good,
That's true.
Well, I just want to say a quick prayer, and we're going to get out of here. Father God, in the name of Jesus, Lord, we just thank you for this opportunity. We just thank you to Heavenly Father, Lord, for allowing Mr. and Mrs. King to share their hearts and, just give us, just some wisdom and some knowledge and some things that we may have not even known. But, Lord, we just thank you once again just for just bringing us together to Heavenly Father in this place. And, Lord, we ask that you would touch every couple. We ask that you would touch every newlywed or fiance just going into a new thing, God. I ask that you would just bless their marriage, their covenant. And, God, I just ask that you will protect us as we leave this place on our way home and to our destination, God. And, Lord, once again, we just thank you, and we just give you all the praise, honor, and the glory. Amen.
Amen.
We'd like to thank all our listeners and
Thank
people
y'all.
watching on Facebook Live. And again, we would like to thank the Kings. And as we always say, my name is Divine.
My name is Ira.
And together we are
As one.
Peace. Have a good evening, everybody.
All right.
Amen. Amen.
You say you got one leg. You got it.
My body.